Tess! I'm back. Remember me, the Tess who used to upload a video every week? I was inactive for a month because I've been very busy preparing everything for the opening of the school year. And as much as I wanted to be consistent with my uploads, I couldn't because multitasking is so hard for me right now. Anyway, I'm so sorry for the background noise. It's so hot, so I turned the AC on. Please don't mind the background noise. So the first book I read in August was A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. Do not underestimate the power of a thin book. I put off from reading this book for years. Yes, you heard that right, for years. Even though I've heard so many good things about it, I was still this late in discovering the beauty of this book. I actually listened to the audiobook of this when I was in college, but I wasn't a fan of audiobooks back then, so I ended up not finishing the story. But here I am. Monster Calls is a fantasy novel set in England. Here we follow the story of this boy named Connor who is dealing with the consequences. He's dealing with the consequences of his mother's illness, and in the middle of the night, a monster visits him and tells him stories. Apparently, the monster just wants the truth from Connor. If you haven't read this yet, let me tell you now, the truth that the monster wants from Connor, it hurts. And it also kept things interesting from beginning until the end of the story. I also loved the mystery behind the monster and the stories he tells to Connor. What made this book extra painful for me? Oh my gosh, I keep on messing up on this part. I'm so sorry. What made this book extra painful for me was the son and mother. Hi, girl.
Buti logic mo po,
Huh?
buti logic mo.
Yeah, I need to do this. Okay. I need to itaw, di ka.
Yeah, snacks.
Muli nasa ako ang goal karon. So I have to do. What made this book extra painful for me was the son and mother relationship. As someone who's very close to my mother since day one, I could just imagine how devastating it would be to see my mother going through the same thing that Connor's mom went through. The writing of this book was so gripping. This was so hard to put down, so if you haven't read this one yet, please read it now. I finished it in one sitting, obviously, and I gave it 5 stars. The second book I read last month was a book that's so close to my heart and probably one of the best books I've read so far this year, and that's Patience Says of Nothing by Randy Ribay. This is written by a Filipino-American author, and I read this for a Weekathon. This is the first book I read for a Weekathon. Weekathon is a readathon hosted by my fellow Filipino booktubers, and its aim is to promote and read books written by Filipino authors. Here we follow the story of Jay. He is Filipino-American. He has a Filipino dad and American mom. They live in America, and the last time he visited Philippines was when he was about 10 years old. So this book is a contemporary book, so it is set in the present time, like this time under Duterte's administration. June had a favorite cousin in the Philippines named June, and he finds out that June was killed as part of President Duterte's war on drugs. So Jay travels to the Philippines to find out what really happened to June because no one in the family wants to talk about June's death, and he really feels like he needs to know the whole truth about it. There were so many things I loved about this book. I actually wanted to film a full review about this right after finishing this book, but it never happened because I suck. At the back, look. Oh no, you can see it. It's blurbed by Sir Jason Reynolds. I was kind of hesitant to read this book because of the title, Patience Says of Nothing. I thought it would sort of insult Catholic beliefs. I'm a Catholic and I grew up in a religious family, so yeah, I was really so judgmental about this book. Patience Says of Nothing is the kind of book that I will really recommend to other people, especially to my Filipino friends. Even though the things that our current administration has done are already familiar to us, which are mentioned in this book, I still think that this book needs to be read by many Filipinos. This book needs to be talked about more. If you're not a Filipino, I highly recommend this book to you because it coherently tackles the current justice system in the Philippines, particularly the extrajudicial killing that's happening until now. This book will also educate you about Philippine history. I really wish that more international readers would find time to pick up this book because it's wonderful. Let's talk about Jay, our protagonist. I really love his character development in the story, and I liked how eager he is to know more things about Philippines since he grew up in America and he doesn't know many things about our country. He is a brave young man. Sometimes his bravery was unbelievable, but I love that this book felt so real in many other aspects despite it being fictional. I also enjoyed reading the descriptions of the places in the Philippines that Jay was able to visit. And another thing that I also like about this are the letters that June sent to Jay. The letter of June and the way Randy Rebay connected it to the title of this book was so unexpected to me. Like, it was incredibly done. And yeah, I didn't expect Randy Rebay to reveal the title that way. As a Filipino reading this, I felt so happy and proud to be represented. This was published by one of the major publishing companies, one of the big five actually, so yeah, I'm really proud that this gets to have a wider, bigger audience. The only sad thing is that many international readers will get to see the negative side of our culture, or shall I say the toxic Filipino culture and the shit that's been happening in this country under the current administration. The only thing I didn't like about this was the love interest of Jay. He met a Filipino girl in the Philippines. I'm really not a fan of the cheating part. I don't know why Randy Rebay couldn't just write a wholesome side love story for Jay. I would have wanted that. Also, I'm the kind of reader who really reads everything, like every pages of the book, especially the last pages of the book after finishing the story. And it's quite funny to see that the name of the president is misspelled in here. It says Rodrigo Duterte. Rodrigo Duterte. Rodrigo. It should be Rodrigo, not Rodrigo. I gave Patience Taste of Nothing 5 stars. This book kind of healed my soul. I don't know. It really has a satisfying ending, and to be honest, I found new strength in Jay's character. Read this. By the way, I posted a photo of this book in Bookstagram with our church as the background, so if you'd like to see that, check out my Bookstagram. Please follow me also if you want to. The next book I read for Weekathon was Hello Universe by Erin Entrada Kelly. This is a middle grade contemporary book. I adore this one so much. I'm planning to read more Erin Entrada books in the future thanks to this. Hello Universe is a story written about 4 middle grade school pupils, so here we get to follow each of their perspective. And this book has diverse characters, and I completely enjoy the adventure in here. I love how things worked out at the end, and it's a middle grade book that didn't fail to connect the readers about the value of friendship and courage even at a young age. I really did not expect to like Hello Universe this much because I'm not fond of middle grade books in general. I always find myself reading more young adult, new adult, and adult books. It's quite funny saying that because I'm a grade school teacher, and yeah, I don't really pick up middle grade books a lot. But because of Hello Universe, I realized that I should definitely read more middle grade books. Obviously, I've been missing out a lot of great books already. So, if you have any recommendations under middle grade books, please comment them down. So I gave Hello Universe 5 stars. Yes, I really love this book. I love Virgilio and his relationship with his Lola. Also, this book is so brave for revealing the fact that kids can be mean sometimes. Can I just say that I would really love to be friends with Kaori Tanaka. She could ask me to be her sidekick and I would say, hell yeah, without a doubt. The next book I read was Heartbones by Colleen Hoover. This is a new released romance novel. And for those of you who don't know, I'm a huge fan of contemporary romance, and I've actually read all Colleen Hoover books, including her novellas. So, Heartbones. It has a weird cover. I don't like the cover, honestly. No offense to Colleen's sister. It is a nice image, but not for a romance novel, I guess. But I did like how Colleen came up with the title. When I was reading the part where Heartbones was mentioned, I was like, oh wow, that weird title makes so much sense now. Heartbones is a story about Bea who struggles with her everyday life. Her mom and dad got separated and she's living with her mom who has drug addiction issues. Unfortunately, Bea's mom OD'd and dies, so she is forced to live with her dad because she has no one to go to. She then gets to live temporarily or spend her summer in this nice beach house owned by her father's wife slash her stepmother. And from there, she gets to meet this boy next door who also happens to be a friend of her stepsister's boyfriend. The story also highlights the contrast between the poor people and the privileged ones. At first, I gave Heartbones 5 stars, but I changed my rating to 4 stars because I expected it to be as intense and emotional as the other Colleen Hoover books that I loved so much, like All Your Perfects and It Ends With Us. It's a kind of sad book I want, but I needed more from it, and I also did not vibe well with the keeping the truth plot of the book. But I adore the side characters, and I absolutely loved the beach vibes in this book. I'm not much of a beach person, but it's been so long since I've gone to a beach, and bitch though. It's been so long since I've gone to a beach and I kind of missed it already. Heartbones still made me cry. Queen's writing still captivated me that I ended up finishing Heartbones in one sitting. Just so you know, if a book makes me cry, it's a sign that I'm gonna give it a rating higher than 3 stars. So then the last book I read in August was another book I read for a weekathon, and that is The Bone Witch by Rin Chupeco. This is a young adult fantasy novel. This is the first book in a trilogy, and actually The Bone Witch is a book that was recommended to me by my sister before, but I was not interested in reading it at that time. I'm truly happy that Weekathon exists because it's mainly the reason why I know many great titles now that I did not know before, which I'm planning to read before this year ends, hopefully. Anyway, The Bone Witch is a story about this powerful witch named Thea. She also has sisters who can wield powers, but hers is the most powerful of all because her power is the ability to raise the dead. Thea moves away from home to be trained by other witches. They're called the Asha, and in Thea's case, she is called the Dark Asha or the Bone Witch because she is involved with necromancy, and they can also mentally control the monsters in this book called Devas. Yeah. I super loved how the story was told. We get to see the turn of events from the present Thea to the old Thea. This curiosity as to why in the present she was exiled really kept things so interesting for me. Yeah, I was really dying to know what happened to her, why she was exiled, things like that. But if you don't know, fantasy is my favorite genre, and The Bone Witch is really different from the fantasy books that I've read before. Rin Chupeco's writing is so unique in this one, and also it's kind of expected. It's kind of expected for a first book in a fantasy series to have more space for world building, but I must admit that
I'm sorry.
the world building really made the pacing too slow at some points. So one of the things I liked about this book was Thea's relationship with Lady Michaela, who also becomes her mother figure and teacher. And if I remember correctly, Lady Michaela and Thea are the only existing Dark Ashas in their world. I don't know if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong. This book also dives into the topic of how we view male masculinity because there's this one male character who really wants to be an Asha, but because of this shitty tradition that only women are allowed to be involved in Asha business because men are meant to fight and be soldiers instead, blah blah blah. A lot of good points was told in the book about men having rights to be fully accepted by society even with their interest in doing female things. I've got a couple of things that I didn't like much in the book. First is there wasn't a clear introduction of what faceless really are. I really wanted to know more about the faceless. Maybe that's for the sequels, but I really wanted to know more about them because they're mentioned a lot in the book. I don't know how many are they in this world that we're talking about. I don't also know where are they coming from. Maybe I wasn't paying too much attention. I also wanted to know more about the Devas or the monsters in this book. Like, what is their origin? where are they coming from? How many are there, like many devas in their world? Also, Taya liking the prince, I did not like it. I could just enjoy the story without any side love story for Taya. It felt kind of insta crushy, insta lovey, and I find insta love or insta crush really boring. I know many of you can relate. But you know what shocked and annoyed me in this book? The ending. Yes, the ending. The ending wasn't so bad actually, but why? I expected it to at least ease my mind because there were so many things I still wanted to know. I want to spoil anyone who has not read the book yet, so there were so many whys and hows after that ending, and Rin Chapeko, I saw what you did there. This is a trap, I know that. Anyway, I give The Bone Witch 4 out of 5 stars. So those are the books I read in August. Thank you so much to each one of you who is watching this video right now. Thank you, thank you, thank you. See you on my next one. Bye, babes.